We are in Sefer Halikutim, Dach Tzemach Tzedek, in the volume of letters, some of letters Aleph, because we are studying about Umot, haOlam, the nations of the world. So that would be page Taf, Kuf, Yud, Dalit, 514 in numbers. And we're in the last line of the page. And we are starting a new subsection in this section of Umot haOlam. So we finished last time the first part, which is regarding to the belief, the philosophy of the nations of the world, how they believe in Hashem, what they believe, and what is not required of them. And now we are up to, sorry, Gershon, sit down. I know it's me. Sit down. Try to eat over as much as you can, because I know it's kind of messy. Sorry. And the second part is called Kabbalas Chiyusam. We're talking about now how the nations of the world, the non-Jewish 70 nations, receive their life, their vitality. That's the section now. And okay, in the bottom, there's an asterisk, which is telling us that there are other sections which also discuss this point, but we're going to stay focused on this part. So again, Tovkuf Yodalit, very bottom of the page, Beis, Kabbalas Chiyusam, their receiving of their vitality. So Tzemach Tzedek writes as follows: B'medrash Rabbah, Soif Parshas Va'eschanon, Al Pasuk Chelki Hashem Amra Nafshi Chuli. Okay, so the Medrash Rabbah on the book of Devarim, Deuteronomy, at the end of the second parsha of that book, Va'eschanon, has a pasuk. Now, Medrash, at times, it's very difficult to find things there because they're not always where one would expect them. It's not like it's based on every pasuk that there you're going to find the explanation there. In other words, there is a Medrash Rabbah on Megillas Eicha. I forget how you say that in English. It's a very long, complicated word that I can't pronounce. It's like about 20 letters. So that's Eicha is the scroll of describing the destruction, and that's traditionally read on the 9th of the anniversary of the destruction of the holy temples. So anyway, so this is a pasuk from Eicha, chapter 3, verse 24. And this medrash, though, is not in Eicha Rabbah, but it's in Devarim Rabbah. Anyway, the verse says, my portion is Hashem, saith my soul. And that the Medrash says. Lemelech, we're giving a parable over here of a king. Shenichnas LaMedina. He entered into a country. V'imoy, and with this king, Duksin v'ir farkin chuli. There are dukes and governors, etc. Different ranking officers are coming along. In this story, there's the king coming to a country, and he has with him various different ministers, different ranks. Yesh mibnei Medina, there are amongst the citizens of that country where the king and his entourage came to, there are individuals there, there are citizens, shebeiru dukus chuli, that they have chosen the duke, etc. The yesh, and there are shebeiru ifarkin chuli, that have chosen some level of a governor, etc. So in other words, the Midrash is saying that different people chose different officers in the government that are coming along with the king, who they want to attach themselves to and who they want to connect with. Then the Midrash says, we're on the second line, Hayasham there was Pikeach, an intelligent individual amongst the citizens, a smart person. Amar, and he said, Eini boirer, I am not choosing Ella, anyone except for, rather, I'm not choosing any of these people except Amelech, the king himself. I choose the king. Lama, why? Shekulan mischalfin, because they all are exchanged. So they don't always remain. Either, I mean, this is a parable, so either their term expires and then someone else is placed in there, or what, for whatever reason, they're not absolute and they're not eternal. V'hamelech ein mischalef, and the king is not interchangeable. There's no substitute for the king. The dukes, there can be others. The governors, whatever levels of officers, there can be other ministers. The king is the one and only, and he is not interchangeable. Okay, that is the parable. So too continues the Medrash. When the Holy One, blessed be He, when Hashem descended Lahar Sinai Chuli, to Mount Sinai, when He came to give the Torah, etc. Ayin Sham, take a look in the Midrash over there. Now, actually, this Midrash, which basically we quoted, we highlighted the parts of it here. The Tzemach Tzedek highlighted it for us. Is brought down a couple of times in the Maimarim, the Hasidic discourses of the Rebbe Melech HaMoshiach, but particularly in one sort of famous Maimer, a discourse. He said it on his birthday, on the 11th of Nisan, in 1971. And then he edited it in honor of his birthday. It came out as an edited pamphlet in 1989. And the whole theme of that mimer, of that discourse, is really this midrash, where the individual actually quotes the words in Aramaic in the midrash, where the Pikeach, the smart one, says, Ana, I, Nasiv, take Malka, the king. And that mimer kind of became known as the Ana Nasiv Malka, which is taking what we're about to say now and really developing the whole concept in very great detail. It's actually translated into English as well. It came out a number of years ago in English. All right, well, the last word on the third line. Aval, however, Yisrael, the Jewish people, Beireru Lahen, chose for themselves HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem. Shema Yisrael, Chuli, Havayo Echad. As they translate, Hear, O Israel, etc. Hashem, Yud Kei Vav Kei, the tetragrammaton name, is one. Vizel Chelki Havayo Chuli, and this is the meaning of this verse from Eicha, that I, me, the Jew, my soul, has declared, has chosen Hashem to be my portion. Meaning, in contrast to the non-Jewish world, that they choose other people in the government of the king to be their choice. I, prides himself, the Jew, have chosen Hashem. V'chein hu. Again, Vav Chaf Hey is an acronym for V'chein hu. And so it is. B'midrash Rabbah Eicha, in the Midrash Rabbah on Eicha, so it actually appears there as well. Taf Mem Ayin Sham. Okay, give me 1 second. Let me just get this mimer. All right. So it's printed in Sefer HaMaimarim Melukot, Volume Gimel, Volume 3. And it's a long mimer. And it begins on page Tzadik Tes 99. Yeah. Okay, actually, it is in the Medrash on the pasuk itself also. Even though the Tzemach Tzedek first brings it down from Medrash Rabban Vaschanan, it is actually on this pasuk. Okay. All right. V'tzarich lahavin. So the Tzemach Tzedek is presenting the following question on this midrash. Ma tzarich pikchus. Why is it necessary to have intelligence? Lazeh, for this. Livcher b'hamelech atzmoi, to choose the king himself. Yoiser me'aduksin, more than the dukes. Why is it necessary to be wise? Why do you have to be the smart one to choose the king over the other ministers? L'cha'ira, apparently, Ze Mevin, this is understands Afilu Tinoik Katan, even a very young child. Everybody knows that the king is incomparable to the rest of the peoples. Why would you want a governor or a duke or any other minister in the government when you can have the king? Why do you have to be so wise? Any child understands that. However, the idea is as follows, and now that Tzemach Tzedek is coming to answer and to explain. As we wrote above earlier, that the nations of the world, they say, this is their philosophy. Ram, exalted, al kol goyim, over all nations, Hashem. Chuli. Hashem is above all the nations. Or another verse, V'azav Hashem es haaretz, and that Hashem has left the world biyad ayin sarim, in the hand of the 70 ministering angels, which are the ones which are the spiritual energy of every one of the 70 nations, respectively, umazolos and constellations, chuli, etc. The karulei, and they, the nations of the world, refer to Hashem as Eloka de Elokaya, that he is Hashem of the gods. Shemichaye b'bchinas makif, that Hashem sustains and gives life in a way of makif, in this all-surrounding way, but not that he is actually involved in every detail, but it's from a distance, from above. Vihu, and this is kanoida, as it's known, shebikidusha hein eser spherois, that when it comes to the side of holiness, of kedusha, Hashem made 10 sephirois. As we know, the 3 of the intellect, Chachma, Bina, Das, and the 7 emotional attributes, chesed, gevura, etc. So there are 10. Eser v'loy teisha, 10, not 9. Eser v'loy achad asar, 10, not 11. Ubeklipa hein yud aleph kisrin de misavusa. But in the klipa, in the opposite of kedusha, in the shell, in the concealment of Hashem, there are actually what we call in Kabbalah 11 crowns of disgust or impurity. Not 10, but 11. So in Kedusha, there's 10. But in Klipa, there's 11. Sheneged zeh, that corresponding to this, Hu Yud Aleph Samimone Aketeres. Those are the 11 ingredients of the incense. That in the Beis HaMikdash every day, the Kohen would offer on this inner altar, the golden altar, a special offering, not an animal, but it was ingredients of the incense, which contained 11 ingredients. So that's the 11, corresponding to the 11 of Klipa. And why would they do that? Why are we bringing an offering in the Beis HaMikdash connected to the number of Klipa? How does that fit? Levarer HaKlipos, in order to refine the Klipos. Shemikabelim HaChayus, for they receive the life, their vitality, Elikus, of godliness, Mibchinas Makif, from this all-encompassing aura. And that is, which is the 11th one, so to say, out of the 11, which is like the extra one, which would correspond to the Klipa, Levoina Zaka. In English, that one would be so in the list, it's number 4 is Levoina. Yeah, anybody know anybody with a name that sounds like Levoina? So that is frankincense, and so in the verse, which actually was in last week's Torah portion, Kisisa, so it says, Hashem said to Moshe, take fragrant spices, and then he lists them. Nataf, which I don't even know how to pronounce these words. In English, Stacte, Ushecheles, Onych, V'chelbina, Galbanum, Galbanum, Samim, fragrant spices, and then it says Ulevaina Zaka, and pure frankincense. Okay, so Ulevaina Zaka is pure frankincense, and that's the, so to say, 11th one.
Is the frankincense white, do you think, in this case, when it says pure? Because frankincense usually is not. It's
I don't know. What color is it usually?
It's an amber reddish color.
It's resin from the tree.
I can show you. They call it myrrh.
No, that's a different one.
Yeah, it's very similar, just a different tree.
Yeah, but what they call frankincense is what they call myrrh. So is called frankincense, but I don't know what the Levon is.
So maybe that's not the frankincense then, because number 4 is frankincense. Number 5 is myrrh.
Yeah, myrrh. So I know it's interesting. Okay, that's why I'm wondering what they.
So maybe it's not what they call frankincense. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Vihu inyan. Again, the acronym here. Vihu inyan, and this is the idea. Dor haflaga, of the generation. How do you say that in English? The generation of the Tower of Babylon, basically. After the flood, the next major story in the Torah is when the people decided to make a tower, and then from there Hashem punished mankind and had them all disperse. So haflaga literally means to scatter, or to it means discord, actually, discord. So the generation of discord of the Tower of Babylon, Shebanu Ha'ir V'Hamigdal Chuli, that they built the city and the tower, etc. So this was really the people were trying to rebel against Hashem. It's the first documented case in the Torah where we actually find outright that people were trying to rebel against Hashem, the Creator. The people there and then, they knew that the flow of life, of energy, nimshach me'elikus, is drawn, it comes from Hashem. They knew that. Rak, only, shetzarich liyois bitul hayesh. What's necessary, though, is that there should be bitul, self-negate, or whatever the proper translation of that would be. I keep forgetting, there's a real good way to translate bitul.
Self-negation.
No, it's a good word. It's a good word. So
submission,
maybe. There's a better. I don't know. There's one word.
Nullification.
Nullification.
No. Now, I once heard one word and that resonated with me, but I can't remember it. Anyway, but you know the idea. So there needs to be bitul hayesh. You have to take the arrogance or the self worth and self awareness, and you have to negate that in the presence of Hashem. The keli, and one must be a proper receptacle, a proper vessel, for Hashem's godliness, blessed be He. In order to receive, you need to have bittul. V'heim, and they, the people in the world at that time, in the generation of the tower, lo yiratzu bazeh, they weren't interested in that. They didn't want to have to be mevatel themselves. They didn't want to nullify themselves and submit to Hashem. They recognized Hashem, and they wanted to get all the goodies. They wanted life. They wanted to prosper. They wanted sustenance. They wanted all good things, but they didn't want to be a so-called proper necessary vessel for it. Kiratzu leilech, for they wanted to go bishrirus libam, in the stubbornness of their heart. They wanted to follow their desires. B'taivois, with desires, v'ta'anugei olam hazeh, and the pleasures of this world, of the physical world. So they didn't want to have to give up anything or go against human nature of gimme, 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 and lust, 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 and I. They didn't want to go. They didn't want to submit any of that. So they wanted to be able to have all that. And now the next acronym is a long one. V'she'af al pichein. And that nonetheless, even though they are giving into all of their desires and lusts, still in all, what they wanted was yumshach lahem, should be drawn down to them hashpoas gashmius, the flow, and give them physicality, materialistic stuff. They wanted to have the best of everything. It's not like they made a choice. We want to serve Hashem and have, we'll forego all the good physical stuff. Nope. And it's not like they say we want physical stuff, but we don't want anything from Hashem. No, they wanted to get it all from Him, and they wanted to have this way. Al Kain, therefore, nischakmu, they came up with, so to say, in quotes, a smart plan. Yeah, how do you say it in English?
Nischakmu.
Yeah, to come up with a scheme.
They contrived.
They contrived. Okay, thanks. They contrived lasois, to make ha'ir, the city, v'hamigdal, and the tower. And as they say, v'naseh lanu shem chuli, and we shall make for ourselves a name, etc. That's what they say in the verse. Who? This is, what were they trying to do actually? To draw down Bechinas Makif, this level, the godly level of Makif, of the all-encompassing, tremendously high, great aura, Levoina Zaka. And that is represented by this, so to say, 11th ingredient of these spices, the Levoina Zaka, the pure frankincense.
So they recognized that there was a Sefer called haOlam kind of concept and Ramalik haOlam, and they wanted to bring that into control, have their own direct ability to control it, so to speak.
Yeah, even though we said previously that we can't demand of them to believe in this in Sefer really, but yeah.
Wow.
Makif. So they had this idea of the Makif, that's what they wanted. The Noiga of Klipas Noiga. So the Makif of the Klipa of Noiga, Hamimutza, which Noiga is the intermediate between Etzer Spherois the Kedusha, of the 10 holy spherois of the tools with which Hashem creates, the 10 godly 3 intellectual levels and 7 emotional levels. Le'eser Kisrin, to the 10 crowns, the misavusa of impurity. Now, before we said there were 11. That's because with this one of Noiga, which is Levoina Zaka, that's how we get 11. Really, as we quoted earlier classes, there's the verse that says, Ze lu'umas ze asa halikim, that Hashem made everything in its counterpart. Whatever you have in Kedusha, you have that same idea in the opposite. So if there's only 10 spherois, and as we said, 10 not 9, 10 not 11, that means in Klipa, there also should be only 10. So how's there 11? So the 11th one is really this makif of Noiga. So it's not really the impure Klipa. It's this in between one, and that's what makes it 11. And it's the intermediate between the 10 of Kedusha and the 10 of Klipa. Val Yadei, and through Bechinas HaMakif, this aspect of the Makif, and this is the idea of what the Goyim say, that Hashem is exalted, is above all the nations, but don't reduce him to being involved in the world that he set into motion, but he is above that, and he, so to say, left the world. So then, by them attaching themselves to this makif of Noiga, this Levoina Zaka, Yikablu, they will receive Ribui, an abundance, Hashpoas Toiv Gashmius, of plenty of a flow of physical good. Even Imloyi Elohem, if they will not have Habitul Vavoidas Hashem Yisbarech. If they will not have this element of bittul, which is necessary in Kedusha, and to serve Hashem. They said, no, we don't want to serve Hashem. We don't want to suppress our own desires and go against our nature. We want to be wild. We want to have all of our desires, give in to our desires, give in to our lusts, and we want to receive from this great makif. That's the system. So that is how they were back then.
Could that be analogous then to the umazeh, so that would be like the Sefer haOlam of Klipa?
I guess.
So by us, it's not counted as a Sphira, but they were in fact trying to. But how does that? I mean, but that's talking about bringing down the essence of the Eibishter. That's a mila that's a mila from Tzimtzum. I mean, that's it's a little murky here what they're talking about. We're talking about an aspect of Sefer haOlam. It's an aspect of Ein Sof, or an aspect that's Sefer Ka'almin within the world.
Or makif. That's that you don't need to earn or be fit. Sort of, but I don't think it's exactly the same. Sort of what Haman wanted with making the gallows 50 amas high specifically, because he said once you get to the high level of the makif, there is no difference between kedusha and klipa, and therefore there is no difference between good and evil, or Haman and Mordechai, and that's why the mitzvah is to get so intoxicated, so drunk, until you don't know the difference between.
I don't know if there's what the connection would be, but there's a concept called the ether, which is at a certain atmospheric level, which would be about 50 amas high, would be where you tap into the ether, which the world, which a lot of talk is that's why you see in all the old buildings, you see they all have towers and they all have like antennas. If you see all the cathedrals and everything, so they're trying to. So the whole idea is that they were tapping into the ether, which is the abundant source of energy that's free in the world, and b'chula. The whole discussion itself. I wonder if there isn't some kind of connection when they're building a tower here. They're trying to tap into the ether, or that energy source, which is starts at about 50 amas high in science. So I wonder.
James, you familiar with ether?
No, I'm not familiar with that term.
Me neither.
If you join my chat, you would know.
Okay.
Okay.
Like the ionosphere or something?
No, the ether. If you like, Benjamin Franklin took a kite,
right? Yeah,
put it up into right, and then he drew down the energy, so and electricity was coming. Why? Because in the ether, there is a free, abundant, perfectly harmonious energy field. For example, those people say what they try to do with communications today is they try to mimic the ether and create a fake ether. But if you tap into the higher, to a certain, it's a certain atmospheric level where
that's why they call it the Ethernet, which used to be communications cables 20 years ago.
Yeah,
Ethernet cables.
Yeah, so Ethernet would be create a synthetic ether. That's why you have relays every so forth. In order, it creates a flower, but in science, there's an actual pattern. They call it the flower patterns. An actual pattern of energy, and the claim is that in the olden days they understood this science. That's why every building has, if you look at it, these towers, which with mercury and everything, it all draws energy from the ether. Ether is the Abishter's. It's a perfect thing, whatever, and that's what they try to. But what they're doing is actually a negative force. But it's mimicking it. So I'm wondering if they weren't just like the tower itself was trying to tap into the ether, because that would make more sense then. And then from there you could draw intense energy if you knew how to harness it. Benjamin Franklin did it in a very simple thing when he put his kite up into the ether and drew lightning, because there's energy there. So he drew that down. That's basically what it was all about. Anyway, look it up. It's called the ether. It's interesting, fascinating stuff, actually. Okay, sorry. It just parallels to okay. Hello? I lost you.
Chaim is listening. Okay, alrighty. Yeah, we lost Rabbi Turen. So thank you, Rabbi Turen. There we go, Yossi. Yeah, Rabbi Turen, his battery died.
Oh, by the I need to get the Sefer. How do I get? I guess. Can you email me some of it in the meantime? Because I think I'm no longer. What page are we on?
Hold on a second. Let me stop recording real quick.